Hello, welcome to Telesur. I'm Carla Gonzalez. This is Interviews from Quito, the program where we explore the big challenges facing this country and the region. In today's program, we discuss the case of Olivine, once again, because we haven't seen the end of this story. The Swedish programmer, arrested for allegedly trying to hack state networks in Ecuador, insists this is a persecution and will defend his case in court in just days. Social organizations are also denouncing a retaliation against digital rights defenders. They say this is a dangerous global trend. To update us on this case, today we have Carlos Soria, Olivine's attorney. But first, let's take a look at this video.
The preparatory hearing of Swedish software programmer Olivine has been set for February 17th. Bini was declared innocent and was set free on the 20th of June after spending 70 days in prison due to an alleged link to WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange, accused of hacking Ecuadorian networks. Bini is looking for justice after all the irregularities that took place in the case that led to his imprisonment.
So thank you for joining us, Carlos. First, let's begin on how the case is at this moment. Where are we now?
Well, thank you for the invitation. The case is still where it was like 6 months ago. Now the news is that we already have a judge. So the provincial court decided that Judge Proaño is going to be the one who's going to hold the hearing, the pre-trial hearing. And of course, on the 17th of February, they have called us for the hearing. So we're ready, we're prepared. The case is the same thing as always. There's nothing against Ola that vinculates him with any kind of illegal activities here in Ecuador nor in the international, community. He has been accused of being a Julian Assange friend. He has been accused of hacking some systems. We have demonstrated all along the procedure, all along the file, that didn't happen. So the declarations of the President Moreno and Maria Paula Roma were actually a lie. And of course, we're going to present that in the pre-trial hearing. And we hope that the judge this time does what the law says and declare the nullity of all the things that had happened. One other important thing is to acknowledge that Ola had received an habeas corpus resolution, in which is not just the consequence of him being out of jail, but instead it is the declaring the violation of his freedom, and all the things that led to his enjailment were actually bad pursued, bad handled, and of course they were not valid for a criminal process.
So let's talk about this trial hearing that's about to happen in just a few hours. What has happened before that? How are we arriving to this point? It was cancelled at some point because we had several protests, large anti-government protests in Ecuador. What happened since then?
Okay, yes. So the process began with a delito called getting into a machine without any kind of permission, attacking some kind of computer system. 3 days before the instrucción fiscal was ended, Fiscalía, the prosecutor, they changed the felony and they put it until we don't know how they did it because they don't have any proof of it, but they are not saying now that Ola is attacking computer systems. But now they are saying that he was inside of a system doing we don't know what, and that they suppose have a proof of that because of a photograph that Ola took with his phone and sent it to the other processes, process that is Ricardo Arguello, who is being processed with Ola. And according to the prosecutors, they say that that's the main, the main proof that they have to trying to, to change the felony. And this is another kind of violation because according to our law, when Fiscalía can do that, but they will have to give you 30 more days to prepare your defense. So therefore, when we asked that if they're going to, to give us more time, the judge said, Proaño said that it is not violating any kind of rights, and we just had 2 days for preparing his new defense about this new felony. So it was, everything has a human rights violation according to the Inter-American Court, and we're going to explore that in the pre-trial hearing. So we hope that they can actually hear us now and they do what law says and declare the nullity of all the things that have happened until now.
So when you announced that the trial was about to happen, you said that now you can defend your Olivine, the person you're defending, you can defend him in court, because before that, the media had already judged him for something that he hasn't done. How is that relationship with the media? How has it been portrayed?
Well, as you know, the whole thing began with some declarations in a press conference from Maria Paula Romo, the Minister of Government now. And all the media at that time, some part of the media just wanted to see some blood. They charged Ola of supposed being, international terrorist hacking systems all around the world, and that wasn't true. So what we had to do is actually prove that there's no grounds for these kind of accusations. And therefore, since all the things began, we have talked with a lot of different kind of media, let's say like that. Some media that wanted to actually say the truth, to discover the truth, and some media that they didn't want that they just wanted to, to portray the government of Lenin Moreno as this kind of, like superhero who gets the bad guys. And well, after a lot of months of, giving some interviews, Olivine being out of jail and giving his own version, we have achieved that the truth comes forward and just establish what really happened. That it was a clear violation of human rights, that they went against a person who looks different, and that was because all these things happened. So we think now that the media prosecution stage is over, and now we have the opportunity, a real opportunity, to prove, according to the law, what really happened.
So we were looking at some of the things that Olivine said after he was released from prison. And one of the things that got our attention was that he says that his case follows powerful political interest, that he is a scapegoat, and that the government of Ecuador has to respond for what is happening. Is that continuing to be true now with the investigation?
Yeah, it's the same thing, it's the same accusation. I mean, it just changed how they're going to present it, but it's the same accusation. And we believe that he is a political he's being a political prosecutor because he doesn't seem like a person who actually can do what he does, because we don't understand it. And because the Moreno government is trying to do these kind of things in order to achieve some kind of indulgence from other kind of countries that they think we need, to progress as Ecuador. So yes, I still think that he's a scapegoat, that he has been, and we're going to prove that that doesn't lead to a formal accusation, and the charges will have to drop against him.
And what happens now with the case of Julian Assange that has been unfortunately linked to Olivine's case? He has been removed asylum, he's now waiting trial as well. How is that connection between both of them that the government says it has proof and it wants to connect that? Is that continuing to be true at the moment?
Of course not. After they said all of the things that they said, we asked for Maria Paula Romo and the president actually going, to the prosecutor's office and present those proofs that they claim to have. That wasn't true. Nobody went. When we called them, they sent just a report saying that they just don't know anything about it. That they are going to present the proofs, and they have presented the proofs that they already have. And there's nothing on the file that can lead to a match between Julian Assange and Olivine. They are just friends, and we hope that they remain as friends after this whole circus is over.
And even after the circus is over, we've seen a lot of social organizations that are defending privacy rights or digital rights.
More than 100 national and international portrayed Olivine as a human rights defender in privacy matters. And that's not said by his legal defense. It's been said by a lot of organizations inside and outside the country. And don't remember that even we have, among those Amnesty International, that it said that it was a political persecution against Olivine, and the judiciary was actually influenced by the executive power. So those are things that you cannot just look, the other way. You will have to look at it as the way that they really are. So these kinds of movements and activities, trying to get somebody who works for a better world to all of us, trying to put him in jail just because it's not going to be useful for any kind of political reasons.
Can you explain a bit of what Olivine said and what he works on? Because you were saying that it's difficult to understand, that some people don't understand about internet privacy, about network systems, the state network systems. Can you explain a bit about that so people can understand what he really does? Because he keeps saying, insisting in all the interviews that he does, he says, I'm doing exactly the opposite of what they're accusing me of doing.
And that's the truth. Olivine has been working for 30 years as a systems developer. And for the last 10 years, he has focused his interest in precisely that, giving privacy to internet users for not having any kind of promise with your information. Let's say if you wanna denounce mass murder killings or under the table killings to journalists in Afghanistan or whatever. So he creates these kind of systems that give them this privacy so they can tell their story and that story come out. So actually what he does, it is a human rights kind of activity, because privacy is a human right. Even the NU has said, and it has a like for freedom of speech, the same thing for privacy. So privacy is it's a really important matter when you use internet, when you give some of your data, and we don't know who's going to use it or with what purpose they are going to use it. So all Olivine tries to do is make this kind of world, the internet world, this digital world, a safer place for your information and of course for your well-being.
And we're also interested about his personal life, his personal aspects. Now after the whole process that he was in jail for more than 70 days and everything that happened after his release. How is he dealing with the situation? Because it's not just him being released and it's done.
And that was it, yeah, no. Well, it's really hard for him because his work was, he developed his work all around the world. That's why he traveled so much. And he cannot travel, he cannot go out of the country now because of the decision of the court. He will have to remain here until his case is over. And he cannot move his money. He has an account here and he cannot move it. He has not independence, financial independence, because all his assets are freeze. So what he's done, he's began to work again. He's trying to do whatever he can do from here, from Ecuador. But this situation actually is really bad for him because he doesn't, even though he knows what is happening, he doesn't understand all the things that were involved in the accusation that the government did. So this is one person defending himself from a whole government, and that demonstrates that he is a political persecutor.
And how's the situation with his family and his friends? We saw during last year the whole programs that were supporting Olivine, this whole support that we saw on social media, on interviews. We saw his family also traveling, coming to Ecuador to oversee this process. What has happened since then? Has he lost support of Ecuadorians, or are more people interested in knowing what's going to happen with him?
All the way around. Every time that we're working on his case and we decide to have lunch, well, that's really difficult because he's a vegetarian and eat meat there. So we have to go to these places. Every time there's people standing up, presenting their support to him, and that's really good. That cheers him up. And all the things that already happened, he knows that they are in the past and he's trying to move on. But it's really difficult until this thing is over. It's really over. His family is always have been with him. They have come to Ecuador in the October when it was supposed to happen, the pretrial hearing, but because of the things that happened, we didn't get it. So he has receiving support from all around the world, not just about their families and his friends, but from a lot of different kind of organizations that want him to be declared as an innocent person that he is.
Now, Olivine spoke after the pretrial hearings and everything. He spoke specifically about his case and said, it's not just about me, it's about the privacy of all Ecuadorians. How does it affect Ecuadorians? Because some people might say, well, he's a Swedish guy in Ecuador, I don't have to deal with him, it doesn't affect me as a citizen in my country, but it does.
It really does, it really does. Remember that Olivine came here to give a speech about Ecuador wasn't supposed to be a privacy paradise. And that was because here in Ecuador, at that time, all the institutions, governments and all kind of institutions, public institutions, didn't use your information. So it was a really fertile ground for him to develop his work. So that's why he came, that's why he stayed here. And the important thing is that we think that we don't have nothing to do with this Swedish guy. Now that they know that it's Swedish because it was Russian first, Swiss later, you know,
among
some
all
other
the irregularities,
more
that the
than
process
120 until now. But yes, the thing is that when you put some of your passports or your information into any kind of social media or any kind of institution that wants your data, you will want them to have your data if you wanted to give it to them, but they cannot use it in another kinds of ways. Let's just remember what happened with Cambridge Analytica. And that's a perfect example of what governments or political interests can do using your information, in their benefit. So all that what tries to do is, to make this a safer place in the digital area. And that's the most important thing. It's not because just it's a Swedish guy. He's a Swedish guy given a service. Among those things, he gives his service for free. So he doesn't charge for it. So he develops these programs and, just put them outside and let them use them, all the people. So that's kind of a person who is actually not well seen by large corporations that want to use your information in a political matter.
Which happens to the best in every field.
Yes, of course. I don't know. Somebody here in Ecuador could say that somebody hacked their accounts and made some, wires that they didn't want to. Olivine does precisely that their information is secure. And that doesn't that kind of thing don't like to certain kind of, powers that involves this.
And now Olivine is preparing, and you're preparing for this trial, for this hearing, where all these charges are going to be presented. How do you see the perspective of these coming days and the coming weeks?
Well, we're preparing every day. We have to exploit all the things that happened that weren't supposed to happen in his case. But the most important thing is to make the judge see that the prosecutor has nothing against Ola. Actual facts, not the things that they said they will have, but actual facts. Where's the computer where we're supposedly hacking? Remember that President Moreno said that in the time that in the moment that he was being arrested, he was hacking systems, and that was not true. We have the videos, we have even the versions of the positions of the policemen who caught him. He was reading a book, waiting on a line to get on a plane to go and work and to go and train his martial arts. So these kind of things we have to show to the judge for him to see, okay, Fiscalia, you don't have anything against this guy. You said you were going to present some evidence. You haven't done it. Therefore, I cannot call him to a trial because there's no grounds for it. There's no actually actions that he have made to commit or presumably commit any crime. That's what we're preparing for.
And does this case, Olivine's case, leave a precedent for any other legal case of anyone working in privacy in software development?
We hope so. We hope so. And as part of his legal defense, we have to explore this to make people understand that this is a real question. How my data is being used? What can I do to preserve my data? And what can I do, for having an assurance that if I put something there, there's nobody going to use it in a way that I don't want to. So this is really important for us to understand. And yes, we think that this legal case will go all the way up into the Inter-American Court and of course into international courts, because we need now a declaration that this thing will never happen again. Remember, in the past we used to overlook these kind of things because it didn't matter to us, because it didn't impact on us. But now they have. Ecuador has been committed a crime. The crime committed against Olivine has to be heard around the world.
And how do you see, if we can probably be a bit idealistic about our legal system, how do you see this case changing some of those laws, or maybe the ones that you want to be, tell the government to be changed?
Yeah, of course.
If we can be a bit idealistic.
Well, I can give a personal opinion as an advocate, but I don't think the law is wrong. The use of the law, pursuing personal interests, that's the bad thing you have to do. This trial would have happened to end 6 months ago, but it wasn't like that. They used all these kind of things that were in the law to make this kind of a deal, and that's not good. In matter of privacy, I think the Ecuadorian government could use this case as an example and give us some more tranquility of knowing that there's the political power who is giving shelter to all the citizens in the country. And why not? Why don't we think about a law that prevents the use of our data in some other ways that we're not supposed to be used to? Yes, that's something that the Asamblea Nacional will have to pay attention to it.
And that could even affect other businesses, other branches, for example, journalism, communications.
Everything. Yes. Just remember this, when, I don't know, a couple of years ago, if these Panama Papers weren't presented by journalists who actually used and wanted to have privacy, you know, because they were going after long, great corporations and people, if they don't have privacy, maybe they would have not presented as they presented it. So this is good for the world, knowing the truth, knowing what is happening with the people and the corporations that are using your data for personal or political interests.
So it's good for all of us.
Yes, it is.
Thank you very much, Carlos.
Thank you for the invitation again.
We've been talking to Carlos Soria, an attorney, about the case of Swedish programmer Olivine, how internet privacy has turned into a political issue in Ecuador and what it might mean for citizens. Thank you for watching Interviews from Quito. I'm Carla Gonzalez. Until next time.